Good afternoon to you and welcome to another Paddocks Club tutorial. Today we're going to talk about adding skylights and light tubes to existing scheme buildings. Well, what exactly are we talking about? Well, let's use some pictures to illustrate it. What is a skylight? Well, from an outside perspective, a skylight is something that looks something like this. This is what appears from the outside. This is not the only type. You can get domed types that aren't flat, but this is in essence what most skylights will look like from the outside. And from the inside, they'll give you a view something like this. You'll see the light coming in through those skylights. Light tubes are a variation on the same theme. What happens is that, especially for interior rooms, you get a dome with a reflective interior that brings the light down into the room. From a side view, they look something like that, and they fit into an existing roof. And what is the context of all of this? Well, the fact of the matter is that you can add this type of thing to an existing section so as to put more light into an existing building. But more often this happens when sections are extended, especially if they're going to be extended into the roof space and you're not going to be able to have windows on the side. Very often a skylight or a light tube will be the way to get light into that. And of course, if you're going to extend the buildings in an exclusive use area, this might be another context in which this comes through. Now, the important questions that should be asked when somebody comes along and says, well, I'm going to do one of these, I'd like to do one of these things, are, is it going to change the appearance of the buildings? And obviously, you can't say no change is allowed, but if it's going to be visible, substantially visible from elsewhere, will it negatively affect values? And if it is approved, look down the track a little bit. Will other owners want to do the same? And if they do, what will be the effect if everyone installs these in the places that are most appropriate, or everyone goes into the roof? Is it going to be terrible, or will it look okay as long as it's controlled and the specification is much the same for all of them? If it's going to be installed in a section boundary, now we must realize that half of this installation is going to become common property. The other half will remain section, or perhaps the interior part entirely part of the section, but new structural material is being added and other material taken away from what is common property. So we've got to be especially careful in this case. Who is going to be liable to carry out and pay for maintenance of this replacement material? It's in the owner's interest to get it at the best possible price, but of course from the body corporate's perspective, if it's going to inherit the maintenance obligation, then it will probably want to know either that the owner bears it in perpetuity or that it's to a very high quality. The other question is, does the need for additional light indicate a change of use? If somebody said, look, I'd like a light tube or a skylight in my garage, one might say, do you really need this for what you have to do in the garage? Or are you thinking perhaps of people sleeping in the garage? Is it perhaps indicative of a change of use? These are the sort of things you would look at. My advice in this regard is that the body corporate should not agree to any such installation unless the owner agrees to maintain it and to pass that obligation on to subsequent owners. It may be absolutely justified that you want more light in your section, Mr. Jones, but why must we all pay for something we didn't have to pay for before? That doesn't make sense. And when you move on, surely the person who takes over that advantage should take over that obligation. So I suggest the best way is by giving the owner exclusive use rights under Section 27A, relatively inexpensive, over the part of the roof that's affected, so that whoever owns that section from time to time must maintain and repair the installation. And one must continue that 27A rule to say that if they fail to do it, then they must remove it and restore the roof to its original condition. You could rely on the owner or a managing agent or future trustees to get an agreement from each new owner before transfer that they'll take over the obligation, but that is risky. These things do get forgotten about in the haste and the urgency of transfers, and if this is not done, the subsequent owner may well argue that he or she was not responsible. They didn't put in, and the body corporate must maintain it. Well, that's an invidious position one wants to avoid. If an owner installs a skylight or a light tube without body corporate permission and without ensuring that the obligation to maintain it and to repair it passes on to subsequent owners, the body corporate should take action, proper legal action, to have it removed. Thank you for joining me in this Paddocks Club tutorial. If you have any questions, let's deal with them in the discussion forum.